Have you ever built someone up in your imagination based on fragments of who you thought they were, only to discover the reality was far more complicated than your fantasy? This is the story of a woman who fell for her perfect customer, wealthy, charming, mysterious, before learning that some mysteries are dangerous, some charm is calculated, and some wealthy men have very dark sources of income. Sierra Martinez had worked at Celestial, an upscale fusion restaurant in Beverly Hills, for 2 years. At 26, she was good at her job, professional, charming, able to read customers and anticipate their needs. She worked the evening shift, serving celebrities, tech moguls, and old money who barely noticed the people bringing them food. But one customer was different. He'd started coming in 3 months ago, always on Tuesday and Friday nights, always alone, always requesting Sierra's section. He was Korean, perhaps in his mid-30s, with sharp features and an intensity that made her breath catch. He dressed impeccably, suits that probably cost more than her monthly rent, watches that glinted with understated wealth. His name was Kang Jun-woo, according to his reservation. And Sierra had developed an elaborate fantasy about him. She decided he was a tech entrepreneur, someone who'd made millions on a startup, and now lived that effortlessly wealthy bachelor life. In her imagination, he was brilliant, kind, slightly lonely despite his success. She pictured him in a modern penthouse, working late on revolutionary ideas, occasionally looking out at the city and wishing for someone to share it with. Table 12's here, her coworker Maya said, interrupting Sierra's daydream. You're mystery man. Sierra checked her reflection in a wine glass, subtle but she wanted to look good, and approached his table with her practiced smile. Good evening, Mr. Kang, the usual, please, and Sierra. He looked up at her and those dark eyes held something she couldn't quite read. How was your day? It was a simple question, but he asked it like he genuinely cared. Most customers barely acknowledge servers as human. Long but good, we had a private party earlier, 40 people. That sounds exhausting. It's part of the job. Sierra lingered a moment longer than necessary. I'll get your drink started. As she walked away, Maya whispered, Girl, you are so gone for him. I am not. You smile differently at his table. You fix your hair. You linger. You're completely into him. Sierra couldn't deny it. For 3 months, Junwoo had been unfailingly polite, generous with tips, and just mysterious enough to be intriguing. He never mentioned what he did for work, never brought dates, never talked on his phone during meals. He ate slowly, seemed to genuinely enjoy the food, and occasionally looked at her with an expression she wanted to interpret as interest. Tonight, as she brought his entree, Junwoo did something new. Sierra, I have a question that might be inappropriate. Her heart jumped. Okay, would you have dinner with me sometime? Not here, somewhere else. As my guest, not my server. Sierra's fantasy came crashing into reality. He was asking her out. The perfect customer, the man she'd been daydreaming about for months, was actually interested. Yes, I'd like that. Tomorrow night, I'll pick you up at 7. That works. Sierra gave him her address, her mind already racing through what she'd wear, how she'd explain this to Maya, whether this could actually be real. After he left, Maya grabbed her arm. Oh my God, did he just ask you out? He did. Do you even know anything about him, what he does? Not really. But Maya, he's perfect. Sophisticated, respectful, wealthy, but not showy about it. And he's been coming here for months. If he was going to be a creep, we'd have seen signs. Or maybe he's been playing the long game. Just be careful, okay? Rich men who are that charming usually have complications. Sierra brushed off the warning. In her mind, she was already planning their future, dates at art galleries, weekends in wine country, eventually meeting his family, building something real. Her fantasy was about to become reality. She had no idea how right Maya was about complications. Junwoo picked her up in a Mercedes, expensive but not ostentatious. He dressed more casually than usual, though his clothes still screamed quality. You look beautiful, he said when she answered the door. Sierra had chosen a deep blue dress that was elegant but not trying too hard. Thank you. So where are we going? A place in Malibu. Small, quiet, excellent food. I thought it would be nice to talk without the restaurant environment. The drive was easy, conversation flowing naturally. Junwoo asked about her life, her family, her goals, why she'd moved to LA from Atlanta. He listened attentively, asked follow-up questions, made her feel heard in ways that confirmed every positive thing she'd imagined about him. What about you? Sierra asked. What do you do? You've always been mysterious about work. I run a consulting firm. We handle business operations for various companies, mostly in Koreatown, but we're expanding. It's not exciting, but it's successful. You don't seem like someone who does boring work. Junwoo smiled slightly. What do I seem like? Honestly, I've been trying to figure that out for 3 months. You're clearly successful, but you eat alone. You're charming, but you keep to yourself. You tip well, but you don't flash money around. You're intriguing. And you've been thinking about me? Sierra felt herself blush. Maybe. A little. Occasionally. Good. Because I've been thinking about you too. Since the first time you served me, actually. You have this way of making people feel seen. Not just customers, but the kitchen staff, the busboys, everyone. It's rare. The restaurant in Malibu was exactly as promised, intimate, with ocean views and incredible food. They talked for hours, the conversation never lagging, chemistry building with every shared laugh and meaningful look. Junwoo was everything Sierra had fantasized. He'd be intelligent, attentive, with just enough vulnerability to seem real. When he drove her home, he walked her to her door like a gentleman. I'd like to see you again, he said. I'd like that too. He kissed her softly, carefully, like he was afraid of breaking something precious. Sierra felt her fantasy solidifying into something real. Over the next month, they fell into a pattern. Dinners, walks along the beach, quiet evenings at his penthouse, which was exactly as modern and beautiful as she'd imagined. Junwoo was attentive, generous without being overwhelming, and gradually let her see more of himself, or so she thought. The first hint that something was wrong came during their 6th date. They were at his penthouse, cooking dinner together when his phone rang. Junwoo glanced at the screen, and his expression changed, became harder, colder. I need to take this, he said, stepping onto the balcony. Through the glass door, Sierra watched him talk. His body language was different, authoritative, intimidating. He wasn't the gentle man who'd just been teaching her to make Korean pancakes. He was someone else entirely. When he came back inside, the warmth returned immediately. Sorry about that. Work emergency, everything okay? Fine, just a difficult client. Sierra wanted to ask more, but something in his tone suggested the subject was closed. She filed it away, telling herself everyone had work stress. The second crack came a week later. Sierra had forgotten her phone at his place and returned to retrieve it. The doorman let her up, knowing she was Junwoo's girlfriend now. She let herself in with the key he'd given her and heard voices from his office. Junwoo speaking in rapid Korean, his tone harsh. Sierra understood enough Korean from working at Celestial to catch fragments. Territory, payment, consequences. The words didn't fit her image of a business consultant. When the voices moved toward the office door, Sierra panicked and ducked into the bedroom. Through a crack in the door, she saw Junwoo with 3 men, all Korean, all dressed in dark suits, all carrying themselves like they were more than just business associates. After they left, Junwoo found her in the bedroom. I didn't know you were coming back. I forgot my phone. Sierra held it up. Who were those men? Associates. We were discussing a business deal. It sounded intense. Some deals are. Junwoo moved closer. Sierra, there are parts of my work I can't discuss. Client confidentiality, competitive information, you understand. She wanted to believe that what she'd heard had innocent explanation. But her instincts, honed by 2 years of reading people at the restaurant, were screaming that something was wrong. The truth came from an unexpected source. Maya's boyfriend, who worked as a paralegal for the DA's office. Sierra, I need to tell you something, Maya said one afternoon before their shift. Remember how you asked me to find out about Junwoo, what he really does? You found something. Maya looked genuinely worried. Mark pulled some files. Your boyfriend isn't a business consultant. He runs the Kang organization, one of the largest Korean crime syndicates in Southern California. He's literally Mafia boss. Sierra felt the world tilt. That's impossible. He's under investigation for racketeering, money laundering, and extortion. The DA's office has been trying to build a case against him for 2 years. Maya grabbed her hands. Sierra, the man you've been dating is dangerous. Really dangerous. He's never been anything but gentle with me. That's how these guys operate. They have two faces. The charming one they show girlfriends, and the ruthless one they show rivals. You need to end this before you get caught up in his world. That night, Sierra confronted Junwoo at his penthouse. Tell me the truth. What do you really do? Junwoo's expression didn't change. What have you heard? That you're not a consultant. That you run a criminal organization. That everything you've told me is a lie. Not everything. My feelings for you are real. But everything else. The business consulting story. Junwoo sighed and poured himself a drink. I inherited my organization from my father when I was 28. It handles various operations, some legal, some not. I provide protection, facilitate business, and maintain order in Koreatown. What the law calls organized crime, we call community governance. Sierra felt sick. So everything I thought about you, the perfect mysterious businessman, it was all fantasy. Some of it was real. I do run businesses. I am successful. But yes, the methods are sometimes extra legal. He moved toward her. Sierra, I never lied about my feelings. I fell for you because you saw me as just a man, not as power or danger or opportunity. You're the only person in my life who doesn't want something from me, except honesty. I wanted honesty. Would you have dated me if I'd told you the truth on day one? If I'd said, hi, I'm a crime boss, would you like to have dinner? No, obviously not. Exactly. So I let you get to know me first. The real me, the man who likes your smile, who listens to your stories, who wants to build something with you. That part is all true. Sierra backed away. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. But Sierra, you're already in my world now. You know who I am. That can't be unknown. For 2 weeks, Sierra avoided Junwoo's calls and texts. She threw herself into work, tried to convince herself she could just walk away from him and go back to her normal life. But the fantasy had shifted. She was no longer imagining a perfect tech entrepreneur. She was imagining a man who lived in shadows, who wielded power most people couldn't comprehend, who'd chosen her out of everyone and had been nothing but gentle, despite his capacity for violence. It was a darker fantasy, and disturbingly part of her was intrigued. The decision was made for her when a rival organization figured out she mattered to Junwoo. 2 men approached her after work, their message clear. Tell your boyfriend to stay out of our territory, or you'll be collateral damage. Sierra called Junwoo immediately, terrified. He was at her apartment in 15 minutes, along with 2 bodyguards she hadn't known existed. Pack a bag, he said. You're staying with me until this is resolved. I don't want to be involved in this. You became involved the moment I fell for you. Sierra, I can protect you, but only if you let me. His expression was harder than she'd ever seen. This was the other face Maya had warned her about. These men threatened you because of me. I will handle it, but you need to be somewhere safe. Over the next 3 days, living in Junwoo's penthouse under guard, Sierra saw his world clearly. The phone calls, the meetings with dangerous-looking men, the quiet authority with which he commanded an entire organization. He was gentle with her, brought her coffee, asked if she was okay, apologized for dragging her into his life. But with everyone else, he was someone different. When the rival gang leader, who'd threatened Sierra, was found beaten and broken with a clear message to never touch Junwoo's people again, Sierra realized the full extent of what loving this man meant. You did that because of me, she said. I did that because they threatened you. There's a difference, is there? Junwoo sat beside her. Sierra, I understand if this is too much. If you want out, I'll protect you from a distance. I'll make sure no one ever threatens you again, and you can go back to your life. But if you stay, if you choose to be with me knowing who I am, then you're accepting all of it. The wealth, the danger, the complication. This isn't what I fantasized about. Sierra said quietly. What did you fantasize? A perfect man. Someone wealthy and charming and uncomplicated. Someone I could build a normal life with. And now I know the truth. You're not perfect, you're dangerous. You're not uncomplicated. You're running a criminal empire. The fantasy is dead. Junwoo nodded, looking resigned. I understand. But Sierra continued. Maybe I don't want the fantasy anymore. Maybe I want the real version, complications and all. Because Junwoo, the past 3 days have been terrifying. But you've also been exactly who you've always been with me. Protective, caring, honest now that everything's in the open. The only thing that changed is my knowledge, not your behavior. 6 months later, Sierra still worked at Celestial. Junwoo had insisted she keep her independence. But now she arrived and left with discreet security. Now she understood why certain people treated her deferentially when they learned she was Junwoo's girlfriend. Now when he came to the restaurant, she saw him clearly, not a fantasy, but a complex man who lived in a gray world she was still learning to navigate. Do you ever miss the fantasy? Maya asked one night during their shift. Sometimes, the fantasy was simpler. Sierra watched Junwoo at his table, conducting business over dinner, the perfect image of a successful businessman. But the reality is more interesting. He's not who I imagined, but he's also more than I imagined. More complicated, more dangerous, but also more real. Are you happy? I'm learning to be. It's not a fairy tale, but maybe fairy tales are overrated anyway. That night, after her shift, Junwoo drove her home, or rather to his penthouse, which had become home more than her own apartment. I've been thinking about your fantasy, he said, as they rode the elevator up. The one where I was a perfect tech entrepreneur. How do you know about that? Maya told me. Months ago, actually. She was worried you'd built me up into something impossible. I did. And then reality crashed. But you stayed. Even knowing the truth, you chose to stay. Junwoo pulled her close. Do you regret it? Sierra thought about the question honestly. I regret the lie. I regret not knowing sooner. But I don't regret this, what we have now. It's not what I fantasized, but it's real. And maybe real is better than perfect, even when real is dangerous. Especially then, because danger means you're protecting me. Complicated means you trust me with the truth. This isn't the fantasy I built. It's better. It's us. In the penthouse, surrounded by the trappings of Junwoo's real life. The expensive art, the secure systems, the constant awareness of the world he operated in. Sierra made peace with the death of her family. She'd fallen for an image, but she'd stayed for the reality. And the reality, while darker and more complex than anything she'd imagined, was also filled with genuine love, fierce protection, and a partnership that existed in shades of gray, rather than simple black and white. I still fantasize sometimes, Sierra admitted later, lying in his arms. But now I fantasize about our future, about you gradually going legitimate, like you've been trying to, about us building something real that doesn't require bodyguards and coded phone calls. That's a fantasy I can work toward. Junwoo said, unlike the tech entrepreneur version, I can't code to save my life. Sierra laughed. Good. Because I fell in love with a crime boss who brings me flowers and actually listens when I talk. Don't chimp that part. Never. That part was always real. And it was. The fantasy had died when Sierra learned the truth, but something better had grown in its place. A relationship built on reality rather than imagination, on choice rather than illusion. She'd fantasized about her richest client and learned he was far more dangerous than she'd dreamed. But she'd also learned he was far more devoted, more complex, and more real than any fantasy could capture. Sometimes, reality beats fantasy, even when reality includes bodyguards, rival gangs, and a boyfriend who commands an empire from the shadows. Sometimes, the complicated truth is better than the simple lie. Have you ever built someone up in your mind, only to discover the reality was completely different? Or learned a truth about someone that shattered your fantasy, but somehow made them more real? These moments of disillusionment can destroy relationships or transform them into something deeper. Sierra's story reminds us that fantasies are safe but shallow, while reality is risky but rich. What's your story of fantasy versus reality? Did the truth destroy what you imagined, or did it create something better? Share below. Because we've all fantasized about someone and learned the complicated truth.